On June 25, 2026, Vercel shipped AI SDK version 7, no keynote stage, no hype cycle, just a release that quietly restructured how JavaScript developers build production agent systems. This wasn't a chat wrapper update, it was an architectural overhaul, one that replaced the hobbyist-friendly streaming helpers of earlier versions with a genuine orchestration layer for agentic applications. If you're building anything beyond a single prompt chatbot on Next.js or any node stack, this changes the calculus on whether you roll your own infrastructure or reach for a framework. Here's what actually shipped and why it matters. To understand the leap, you need the baseline. Vercel's AI SDK began as a lightweight streaming utility. Versions 3 and 4 gave developers stream text, generate object, and the UseChat React hook, clean abstractions for piping LLM responses into UI components. Version 5 introduced tool calling. Version 6 added multi-step tool use and structured outputs. Each release was useful. Each was also fundamentally request-response shaped. You sent a prompt, you got an answer, maybe with a tool call in between. That architecture breaks the moment you need an agent that plans, delegates, remembers, and recovers from failure across multiple steps without human input at every junction. Version 7 introduces 3 core primitives. First, a first-class agent constructor that encapsulates a system prompt, a set of tools, a model binding, and, critically, a configurable reasoning loop with max step limits, retry policies, and exit conditions. Second, a task graph, API for defining directed acyclic graphs of agent subtasks with conditional branching and parallel execution. Third, a persistent memory layer with pluggable backends, Vercel KV and Postgres out of the box, custom adapters via interface. These aren't wrappers around chat completions, they're execution primitives. The agent loop runs server-side, manages its own state, and streams incremental progress to the client through server-sent events or the new useAgent React hook. The orchestration model deserves scrutiny. In prior versions, developers who needed multi-agent workflows, say a research agent that delegates to a search agent and a summarization agent, had to manually manage the control flow. That meant writing state machines, serializing intermediate results, handling partial failures, and building their own supervisor logic. SDK 7's task graph handles this declaratively. You define nodes, edges, and conditions. The runtime manages execution order, parallelism, and error propagation. According to Vercel's engineering blog post accompanying the release, the design draws explicitly from workflow engine patterns rather than chatbot patterns, a deliberate architectural choice. The obvious comparison is LangChain and its LangGraph orchestration layer. LangChain popularized the chain of tools paradigm, but has faced persistent criticism for abstraction bloat and Python-first design. LangGraph addressed orchestration with a stateful graph model, but it remains primarily a Python ecosystem tool. AI SDK 7 is TypeScript native, runs on the edge or in Node, and integrates directly with Next.js server actions and route handlers. There's no impedance mismatch between your agent runtime and your deployment target. For JavaScript-first teams, this eliminates an entire translation layer. That said, LangChain's ecosystem is broader. Its community has built hundreds of integrations. SDK 7 is leaner, and that's both its advantage and its current limitation. Then there's the other end of the spectrum, tools like CUGA, the Controlled Unified Generative Agent framework, and fully custom-built orchestration layers. CUGA, which has gained traction in 2025 and 2026 among teams wanting fine-grained control over agent behavior, offers lower-level primitives with minimal opinions about deployment or UI integration. Rolling your own gives you maximum control. You decide exactly how context windows are managed, how tool results are validated, how agents communicate. The trade-off is time. According to developer surveys from the AI Engineer Foundation's 2026 report, teams building custom agent orchestration spend an estimated 40 to 60% of their engineering time on infrastructure rather than application logic. SDK 7's bet is that most production teams would rather not. What makes this release strategically significant is the integration depth with Next.js. The useAgent hook manages client-side state, streams incremental agent progress, and handles optimistic UI updates, while the agent loop executes server-side. Server actions can trigger agent workflows directly. Middleware can gate agent access based on authentication. The entire agent lifecycle, from user intent to multi-step execution to rendered result, lives within a single deployment unit on Vercel's platform. This is opinionated infrastructure. It's also exactly what teams building SaaS products with embedded AI capabilities have been assembling piecemeal for the past 2 years. The implications are straightforward. If you're a team of 2 shipping an agentic feature inside an existing Next.js product, SDK 7 removes weeks of infrastructure work. If you're building a complex multi-agent system with bespoke reasoning requirements, you'll likely still want lower-level control, CUGA, custom orchestration, or a hybrid approach. The question isn't whether SDK 7 is the right tool for every agent application. It isn't. The question is whether the abstraction layer it provides is trustworthy enough for production workloads. Early indications, based on Vercel's own deployment of these primitives in V0 and reports from beta testers, suggest it is. But the framework is weeks old. Battle testing takes months. Vercel has made a calculated move. By embedding agent orchestration directly into the most popular React Meta Frameworks ecosystem, they're positioning AI SDK not as a utility library, but as infrastructure. The kind of infrastructure that becomes load-bearing in production codebases. That's a different proposition than a chat helper. It carries different responsibilities. Version 7 is the first release that takes those responsibilities seriously. Whether it earns the trust of the production engineering community will depend on what ships next: reliability under load, observability tooling, and the unglamorous work of maintaining backward compatibility. The architecture is sound. Now it needs time.